So for the time I will be away for HRX, which is right now, I figured I want to do something a little more light. That's a bit of a mini-series that I can easily fit into those days, and that's gonna keep you entertained enough, it's gonna be interesting, aside of the videos that I will be doing from HRX. And that's starting today, and what we're gonna talk about is the best Guardian of 2017. We'll do the same thing for every other role except Assassins, because we only had Daji as a release there. And obviously this goes without saying, this is highly opinion based. This is why I think one of them is the best Guardian and the other ones are not, or what was made better about that one particular god. And in the end, if you like another one better, that's totally up to you, that's totally fine. I will go about this more from a perspective of which god I think was released in a very good state already, which didn't need too many changes to, well, come into more or less viability than they are now, and had an overall comprehensive design, kit that worked together, maybe some new features that made them interesting, and, well, based on that, I would call them the best one, but best is a very vague statement in that regard. And with that said, let's get going. We had 3 Guardian releases. Early in the year we had Kuzenbo, later on we had Ganesh, and then we had Ardio. When it comes to the design, we could early on already see some general tendencies. With Ganesh, it was pretty obvious that he was supposed to be played as a support primarily, due to the fact that he revolved around assists and all that kind of stuff, basically sharing waves without taking anything from the ADC or taking kills and gifting them to teammates. With Ardio, it was quite the opposite, where her kit isn't really geared for a lot of big CC or anything like that, not that much setup, but she has very excellent self-sustain actually, and seemed to more fit into a solo niche than support niche, even though she is played in support as well. With Kuzenbo, in the beginning, no one really knew where he was gonna end up. He was kind of weird in any regard, not really enough CC to be played as a support, not really enough anything else to be played as a solo, and, well, that's neither of the positions where he actually ended up being most successful anyways. So let's talk about Kuzenbo a little more in detail first. Kuzenbo as a release was very underwhelming. His kit was lacking internal explicit synergy. Aside of the spikes that reduced the cooldown of the one, there was really nothing that kind of had a feeling of fitting together all too well. Obviously you could pin someone in the wall and then turn on your 2 and hope they would hit you, but really that was about it. And there was an issue with his cooldowns being too long and his effects generally not being impactful enough to really warrant picking him anywhere. And that took quite some time to get changed. First, some of his glitches had to be fixed, for example him not instant killing people with 3 anymore. Then a lot of his cooldowns had to be adjusted, a lot of the values of his abilities had to be adjusted, so there would really be a reason to use him, for example adding a slow to his abilities, or generally decreasing his cooldowns also on his ultimate. In Kuzenbo's case, that took quite a while. He was originally a meme and was generally known as a very weak god that you would only play to have fun or to troll around. And over time, he slowly gained a little bit of viability. He's still not the best god out there, but at least in jungle, he has now been established as somewhat of a decent pick, and even in solo, he can be played these days and have a decent impact on the game. Considering that it took from February to September to actually get him into this state though, I would not consider him the best Guardian release of this year, at least not initially. As a fun god, absolutely, I love Kuzenbo and I think he's one of the greatest concept-wise gods that we have in Smite, but there were just too many issues with him in the beginning in order to say he was a really good release god. And then we go to the opposite end of the spectrum. That's Ardio. Ardio's release was absolutely obnoxious. Just the fact that she could basically perma-cripple you with the right item build was absolutely frustrating to play against and made her one of the most hated releases by many. In her initial state, she had way too much healing across multiple abilities, she had way too short cooldowns, especially considering that she's a stand swapper and just generally does have more abilities to use at any point anyways. She had too much protection reduction, which is especially brutal on a character that otherwise doesn't really build into items that do much protection reduction. So basically, she was free of having to be forced into something like Void Stone, as other damagey guardians would, as she already had that build and protection reduction, so she could still deal much damage with a full tank build. Then she also had too high base stats that were nerfed over time. She also had just too much damage in certain abilities, too much scaling along with it, and that all combined just made her very, very hated by a lot of the community, even though I think concept-wise she is also a great god. I think the concept of stance swapping between the druid and the bear, and the abilities that go along with it, one stance being more supporty healing, the other one being more damage oriented and a bit more all-in kind of thing, were really, really cool, but she just has some glaring issues to this day even that are standing out compared to other characters. For example, she still has this very, very strong long-time cripple and an instant stun that, well, not many characters in this game have and shouldn't have to begin with. In terms of visuals, I think Ardeo is one of the greatest releases of this year as well, because all her skins have really cool visuals, they look really cool, the effects look nice, even the tier 2 looks really, really cool. So I think in many aspects Ardeo is actually a great god, but I don't think she was a great release at all because she was absolutely busted. I said it when I played on PTS. This god cannot go live like this. She went live like that and she went through a patch cycle like that, and that was absolutely not okay. So that's definitely not gonna be the release of the year, as much as I personally like playing her. And that brings us to the last of the three, and in my opinion, the Guardian release of the year. And that is Ganesh. Ganesh was released in a relatively balanced state. He wasn't 100% balanced, but he didn't need any super heavy nerfs to not be completely above the meta. Ganesh was originally considered kinda weak by many, but over time that kinda shifted and many people actually considered him too strong. Thing is, if he was too strong, if he was too weak, at the end of the day, it wasn't so clear in one direction that anyone would have said, okay, this character is absolutely busted and he definitely needs nerf, or this character is way too weak and definitely needs buffs. It's more like, yeah, I don't know exactly how I feel about them. And his changes kind of reflected that. He got some fixes in the beginning, just some bug fixes. Then Atomic Pillar dealt reduced damage to minions and jungle monsters, just not to be able to secure with that dot as easily because the minions would always stand out the line and not move from it. And then the slow on Atomic Pillars, on the other hand, was buffed later on, increasing the slow across all ranks to 35% instead of originally 20 to 40%. When a god has such a low number of changes, it generally indicates that they were pretty much fine for the most part. Otherwise, they would obviously have seen more adjustments over time in order to balance them with the meta. Especially when new releases come out, they usually get a decent amount of nerfs or buffs over time to fit them in right at the beginning before people start complaining about them. Doesn't always work out, see for example Ardeo, but it's generally the tendency of what we're seeing. But it's not only the initial balance that was done pretty much right with Ganesh. He has also got the bonus of being a Hindu god. We get those very rarely and people are usually looking forward to them. He's got a very cool and unique design overall. He's got these, well, kind of peaceful elements and the weapons at the same time with his 4 hands. He's got abilities that go in hand quite literally with this skin or with his design, which is specifically the 3 where he knocks up enemies with his hands. And he's got the calm voice pack to match it all. All of this character kind of reflects what his kit is, being especially the passive, where he's the one who wants to help his allies at all costs. He wants to give them whatever he earns, basically share it with them. And I think design-wise that's very well executed. His kit in itself often revolves more around setting up for teammates and giving them potential to get away in situations through the silence, giving protections, and having the pillars that restrict enemies in what they're doing but not directly hurting them, which I think is a very interesting approach. Well, you don't have to run out the pillars if you don't want to. And at the same time, if you underestimate him and try to fight him directly, you can still be punished hard for it, especially due to the fact that his clearing ability, has a solid amount of damage, and he has this very brutal combo between his ultimate, putting you on the edge of the ult, and then using his 3, where you will be locked on the damage of the ultimate, which is ridiculously high for a very long period of time, and that can easily punish you for misplaying against him and going too aggressive. I personally play Ganesh very little, but I think design-wise he is one of the best gods to see out of 2017, not only in the Guardian section, but overall, just because everything kind of clicked with him, balance-wise, design-wise, and kit-wise. And with that, thank you guys for watching. I will continue the series over the following days for the other roles as well. So if you're new to the channel, feel free to click the sub button and maybe the bell, it really helps me out and it gives you the chance to actually catch the other parts of this series as well. I will be at Hi-Rez Expo when this video is released, so I'm not sure if I will be there for the comments, if I can reply to them or anything, otherwise I'll read them after. Thank you guys for watching, see you for the next one tomorrow. DukeSloth, out. And this is where my outro would come in, but I don't have one at the moment due to demonetization reasons with YouTube, so as requested as usual, I'm doing it myself. When will this ever end? So I actually figured out my demonetization issue, and it was my outro. As such, feel free to click any of the links around here right now. There will be new outro music as soon as I find something nice. Until then, as you guys requested, I will do the outro music myself. You're welcome.